Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? It's me, Mr. 4K Upscaler. Google Stadia is just around the corner. It's coming out on Tuesday. Um, so the question is, should you pre-order this or should you not pre-order this? I already covered this a little bit, but on this video, I think the most reasonable way to approach Google Stadia is to wait for the others. Take your time, wait for the others to do some tests on it. Wait for me to do some tests on it before you jump in and dive into the Google Stadia. First and foremost, you have to remember, what is Google Stadia? Google Stadia is a streaming service for video games. The difference this time around, this is not the first time that streaming service has been implemented into gaming society. You know, the very first time there was a guy called Steve Perlman, who also comes from the Bay Area, the Silicon Valley. He started this concept of, for the very first time, streaming the games on the cloud service. Now, it was a very first step. The name of the company, it's called Onlive. He had like a bunch of games from PC on there, only PC games from various different developers. And he did okay in the beginning. He did okay in the beginning, but it was a terrible resolution. It was like 720p or something like that. 720p, and the quality was not that great. But people were still going in there and playing it, right? They were playing Batman games, and I think Borderlands and some other ones. And this was in 2010, I believe, 2010. And it did okay for the first year, but guess what happened? Everyone who has signed up, everyone who has bought the games on live, I mean, you have to pay for the games, just like you're paying right now. You have to pay for the games. It's pretty much the same concept as on live. So what Google Stadia really is just a remake of OnLive, really what it is. And when they first started the OnLive service, it did okay for the first year, and people spend a lot of money buying all these games, right? But guess what happened? The CEO, Ron, what was it? Is it Steve Perlman? Steve Perlman. He left the company, sold it to somebody else, and that other company shut down the service because they were not profiting enough money. And they couldn't make deals with developers. Developers were pulling out their games. They're like, okay, we don't want to put our games into this service. The service is failing. And guess what happened? All the money you have spent, every dollar, every cent you have spent on that service has been taken away from you. And that's the scary factor. I have no problems and issues with technical achievement of this. If they can achieve 4K HDR, that's pretty awesome. If you can stream something, play a video game that gives you a 4K HDR at 60 FPS with maximum settings from some kind of a beefy PC out there, from the server, if they can achieve that, that's pretty awesome. Then you don't really need a PC, right? That's a cheap route to go with. But you got to remember something, guys. You don't own the game. You really don't own the game. And I have to say, I have to be honest about this. Yes, I'm going to test it. I'm going to tell you how well does it run in 4K and HDR. I'm going to test Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm going to test some other games, Destiny 2. But you got to keep one thing in mind. What you're paying here is you're paying something that you don't own. Okay? You're leasing. Okay? And when they decide to pull out, and when developers decide to pull their game out, guess what? All the money you have spent on Google Stadia is going to be for nothing. So the reason I'm mentioning the OnLive, and the reason if you want to look it up, you guys can look up the OnLive service, okay? And just Google it, OnLive Live Steve Perlman. You can Google it, you can look it up, and you will see the history of that company in 2010 and what happened. And I think the same thing can happen here with Google Stadia. Think about it. You're paying $130 for a controller. You can use your own controller. You can use the PlayStation controller. You can use the Xbox controller. On the PlayStation now, you can use any controller you want. Okay? Here, you got to pay for the controller, specific controller that they want you to use. They use as USB-C. And then you got to also buy Chromecast Ultra. So you're paying $130 plus tax, let's say $138, let's say $140, okay? $140 depending where you are. If you're in Canada, it might be even higher. So you're paying $140 for this thing, okay? So right there, you just spent $140 for the hardware that possibly will be useless if the service goes down. All right, so you just spent $140. Now you got to pay for the subscription service, and subscription service only if you go with the Pro only allows you 4K and HDR. It covers some games, but not everything. Some other games you have to pay for, and there's gonna be a lot of games you're gonna have to pay for. So think about that. You just spent $140 on this device, $140, and now you're paying another $10 for the monthly subscription. That's $150. You just spent $150, and then you want to buy another game that you like. Maybe you want to buy Borderlands 3. You want to see how well it runs on 4K and HDR. Guess what? There goes $200. And you want to buy another game. There goes $270. You want to buy another game. There goes $300. So within a couple of weeks, you just spend $300. And here's the worst part. You have to have a really good internet connection, because I don't know how well is this going to run. So you got to pay for the internet as well, obviously. And guess what? The game that you just paid for, you don't get to own it. If Ubisoft or somebody else, whatever developer decides to pull that game out, if developers decide to pull that game out, guess what? You don't get to own it. Let's say you paid $60 for, okay, let's say Borderlands. You paid $60 for Borderlands, and then the 2K Games decides to pull it out. Says, okay, we're pulling this out. It's only going to be available on our, on Epic Games or whatever. And you're like, oops, oopsie daisy. What am I supposed to do now? I just spent $60. I cannot use this. And the reason I'm saying this, I'm not making this video to tell you not to buy it or to buy it. I'm just trying to give you some peace of mind. I'm just trying to explain something to you on what to expect. I just want to be real. The whole point of this channel is for me to be real with you, to be honest with you, to be truthful to you. Okay, I don't work for Google. Google's not paying me for this. No one's paying me for anything, and I'm happy to say that I've been doing YouTube for 6 years without a sponsor. I'm my own sponsor, dude. I sponsor my own self, and I'm proud of that. I'm super, super proud of that, which I should be. And that's what I want to do here. I want to give you an honest look, and that's what I want to do here. My whole point here is that, do I think Google Stadia is worth it? Looking at it from a financial point of view, in terms of value, I don't think it's worth it in terms of value. What value are you getting? You're only getting this Google Chromecast Ultra that you can use to watch movies, I guess, on it. If everything else goes bad, I guess you got a Google Chromecast Ultra, I guess, right? And you got this controller, but this controller, it's only compatible with Google. You cannot use it with your PC. You cannot use it with your PlayStation, your Xbox. So the controller, it's useless if the service goes down, which there's a pretty good chance he might go down. All right. If developers say, no, we don't want to go with this service, we want to do our own thing, guess what? They're going to pull out. They're going to pull out. They're going to take all the games that they were there. They're going to pull out. They're going to shut down the service. And all the money you have spent is going to go down the drain or down the toilet. Okay? So think about that. I want you to think about that. And another thing I want you to think about is how well it's going to run. That's why you should hold off pre-ordering this thing. How well is it going to run? No one has tested it. I haven't tested it. Nobody out there has tested it. So we don't know how well the service is going to run. So my advice to you is, guys, wait for me to test this service. Let me test it. Let me show you how well does it run. I'm going to try various different internet connections. I'm going to try to go with my Wi-Fi hotspot. I'm going to try to go with my certain, not my 5 gigahertz router, but my other router to see how well it runs on 80 megabit or 40 megabit, like 40 megabit to 50 megabit to 80 megabit speed, internet speed, to see how well does it work. Let me test it. Let me see how well does it work from a technical aspect, from technical point aspect view. And then I'll let you know if it works. Does it work well? Is there issues? Is there problem? So wait for me to do that. But as far as the value of this, guys, think about it. Think about the value here. What value are you getting here? You don't own this. I mean, you don't own the games. Okay? And think about those individuals in 2010 who subscribed to Onlive, and they spend, let's say they spend $600 on the video games on live, and they lost all that money. They lost all that money. Let's say they bought like 40 games or 50 games, and they lost all that money. Imagine that. Imagine how badly that person felt, or that individual felt. So is it worth the investment? I would say no. From a financial point of view, I don't care what Phil Harrison says. He works for Google. His job is to sell. He has to say good things about the company. He has to say good things about this device, because he works for them and they're paying him shitload of money. So of course he's going to say good things about it. You don't have to have. If you have any brain cells, if you got any brain that works, clearly you can see that. Unless you don't have a brain, then you can't see that. But of course, he's the CEO, the guy who's running this and works for Google, is going to say, yes, go buy it. A car salesman who's selling you a car is going to say, yes, go buy my car. Go buy it. Or the guy who wants to sell you a house is going to say, yeah, go buy a house. Okay? Because that's their job. Me, I'm independent. My job here is to be honest with you, to the public, to tell you what I think. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? So bottom line is this: I don't think it's worth the investment, because it's unpredictable. It's hard to tell which way this thing's going to go. All right? And so far, it doesn't look that good. So far, they got a very rocky, kind of like a tsunami wave of a launch. It's not looking that good. Bunch of features not going to be available to share, to talk. There's truckload of features that not going to be available at launch with Google Stadia, and that's something you have to think about too. So before you hit the pre-order, it's easy. Listen, the easiest thing to do is to buy this thing. If you don't buy this, we can buy it next week or whatever, or you can buy it in next month in December. The easiest thing to do is to buy something, okay? The hardest thing to do is to get that money back, to get that value back that you just spent. So I want you to think about that. I want you to think about the value versus what you're paying. And here, what you're paying, it's really, you're not getting much of a value, all right? And you don't know much. I don't know really if it's true, if you're going to be able to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey in 4K HDR with 60 FPS with the ultra settings with a zero latency. If that's going to be the case, I don't know that. I haven't tested it. No one has tested it. So it's the best thing to do for you guys. It's to wait for me to test it. As soon as I get the codes, as soon as I receive this thing, wait for me. Wait for me. Let me test it, man. I'm gonna test the hell out of this thing. You can ask me any questions. I'll even do a live stream where you can ask me questions so I can give you an honest answer. Okay, so I can do a proper tests. I want to do a proper test on this, so that way you can make up your own mind whether or not this is something you should invest your hard-earned cash money. So wait for me. I think that's what you should. That's my advice to you, is to wait for my video. Whenever they give me the codes, whenever they send me this thing, whenever I got it, I'm gonna do the videos. Okay, so I just want to give you peace of mind on this video regarding Google Stadia, because I wouldn't jump on it. The only reason I did it is because I need to test this. I need to test it, and I want to contribute it to the YouTube here on this channel, so that way you guys can have a peace of mind. Others will do tests as well. You can look at theirs, you can look at mine, and you can make up your own mind and decide for yourself. But right now, I wouldn't jump on the bandwagon of purchasing this pre-ordering this right away, because remember, you're not buying a hardware console. It's not like you're buying a console or something, or a PC. You're buying something that it sits on the cloud. It sits on the cloud. And you do not own those games. But you're paying for them, but you don't own them. If there was if they had a subscription service like PlayStation Now, look at PlayStation Now. It's only $10 a month. Maybe PlayStation Now will drop it down to $7, make it even better. If they did a service where you only pay $10 a month and you get like 300, 400 games to choose from with 4K and HDR, 60 FPS or 120 FPS, if they did that, if they had that, and you're only paying $10 a month and you're getting 400 games available, then that's something to think about. That's something like, okay, all right, yes, I'm renting it for $10 a month, but that's still a pretty good deal in comparison to what I will be paying for every and each game on top of the subscription service. Think about it. On top of the subscription service that you're paying, and on top of the $140 that you have to buy for the controller and the Google Chromecast Ultra, and then you got to pay for these games. Think about, do the math, take a pen or pencil and a piece of paper, put down and multiply everything, and you will see that the outcome is not that good for your wallet. It is good for Google, but it's not good for you. And we got to be honest about this, because if we allow companies like this to think it's okay to do something like this, thinking that we're just going to simply jump on this bandwagon and take this service, then this company, Google, need to rethink this, and they need to understand that we are not stupid, and they need to do a better job than this. Okay, go out there, contact developers, give us a good, why can't you do a $7 a month subscription service? Why can't you do what Disney's doing? Do $7 a month subscription service with 400 games, and you can use any controller you want to use. You can use any device you want to use. You can use any tablet, any phone. Why don't you do that, and then you will see how much of success you will have. But you're not doing that, Google, are you? You're not doing that. All right, I'm just here to shed some honesty and truth into this, and that's what this whole thing is about. So the best thing to do, wait for me to do tests on this, and then take your time, make up your own mind whether or not it's worth the investment. All right, well, there you have it. I'll see you guys at the live stream later on. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Take care. Have a good one. Take care.